Mr. Douglas, do you recognize State's Exhibit 117?
I do.
What is it?
This is a timeline that I created that I titled Venmo activity that includes the two accounts that Lori had regarding Venmo as well as Tylee's.
And did you prepare that in anticipation of testifying today?
I did.
Did you prepare that to aid the jury in understanding the Venmo activity on Tylee Ryan's account and how it might interact with this case?
That is correct.
Is that a true and accurate representation of the timeline or chart you created?
It is.
Your Honor, I'd ask that for demonstrative purposes, that State's Exhibit 117 be entered into evidence.
Any objection?
No objection, Judge.
Very well. Exhibit 117 is entered and admitted.
May I publish?
Yes.
Mr. Douglas, this chart doesn't all fit.
There
at
we go.
once,
That
so I'm gonna
fixes
start
the
over.
layout. Now I have to fix the chat.
Can you, you talked about the documents you looked at to prepare this. Can you just explain for the jury in a little more detail how you put this together?
So starting in January of 2019, the three accounts, I labeled the funding sources that were associated with
Anytime this thing would like to load so I can fix the chat would be fine.
JP Morgan Chase accounts.
Anytime.
But Tylee's
Bueller.
JP Morgan Chase account was the
Bueller.
only funding sources
There you go.
associated with her Venmo account until September. And this also, the activity, the Venmo also provides.
Internet's
who the
being slow
funds
today.
go to, and as associated would been how that individual labeled themselves in Venmo.
And the audio is also
All right.
very quiet for
So
some
can you,
reason.
tell us who was Tylee?
Oh, that's because I
Venmoing?
turned it way down. That would be why. All right, the chat is now fixed. So that should be good. All right, I think everything is in the right order. And I can't hear anything, and that would be because I accidentally muted the
That's
audio.
correct. Throughout that time frame, that is the amount of payments associated with that account.
So how much did she send in that time frame to Colby Ryan?
Tylee?
Yes, I'm sorry, that wasn't very clear. How much
No,
did
my
Tylee send
audio is
to
all
Colby
distorted.
Ryan?
So throughout that time frame, Tylee had Venmoed Colby 4 times for $170 total.
And
There we go.
where is that?
If you'll slide it
Yay.
over slightly. And the jury will be able to associate this chart with the chart that we referenced yesterday, Tylee's bank account records, the orange being associated with the orange
All right,
on
I need
that
to turn
account
down
or
the
that chart,
audio
as well as
just
the
a
red
little
being
bit here. It's
associated
a
with the
little
red on
spicy,
that
so
chart
turn it
as
down by
well.
like 3 decibels or something.
And the
That
funding
looks better.
source, I tried to get as close to
There we go.
even as possible.
All is
being
well.
changed per Venmo September 10th of 2019.
And was there still Venmo activity after that?
There was.
And you have on here the move to Rexburg around September 1st.
Yes.
And then that you have it labeled Tylee is killed on September 9th.
Correct.
Was there still Venmo activity after that?
There was.
What Venmo activity took place
Melissa,
after that?
yesterday was just a
So
rough
the
day
Venmo
all around.
activity
Hopefully
there
today
in
will
the
not be
bottom
as
right,
bad, but like
starting
yesterday, I
September
just
10th,
had
going through
like a
December
number of
18th
things go
to
wrong.
Colby Ryan.
It was a very
And do
frustrating
you have an
day.
amount that was sent to Colby Ryan?
There were 29 payments throughout that time period totaling
So hopefully today will not be as
$5,940.
rough.
And
I've had a
you said
productive
that
morning,
Colby
though.
Is Tylee's.
I've been working on my
Older
Supreme Court
brother.
petition, and
So
I
Lori
think
Vallow was his mother.
I'm going to be
Correct.
done today with what I will characterize as my first ultra rare, ultra rough draft. So I'm pretty excited about that.
Your Honor, I'm going to ask that the witness be handed States Exhibit 97 and 97A. 97 is a business records affidavit, which is the one subpart A. I believe this comes in by way of stipulation.
That's correct, Judge. Thank you.
Okay, I'll just review those quickly.
My workout looks fire. Yes, that was a highlight of my day
Exhibit
yesterday. So I did have
97
that
and
going for
Exhibit
me.
97A are both
305
admitted.
pound hack
Thank you.
squat, baby. So, hey, it wasn't all downhill.
Mr. Douglas, do you recognize States Exhibit 97A?
I do.
What is it?
These are records provided from Etsy.
Okay. And what do they show?
They show purchase by Lori on the date of August 15th, 2019 for 2 items with the description of glow-in-the-dark malachite rings, malachite inlay titanium rings.
Your Honor, may I publish that exhibit for the jury?
You may.
Mr. Douglas, if you can show the jury what you were just speaking of.
When am I going to become a judge? I don't know. I don't.
So the
I
information
don't
being
particularly
provided
fancy
by
myself a
Etsy
trial
here
judge.
and the order
And I'm
date
not sure
for the
that you
date
would
of
enjoy
purchase
watching
being
me
August
as an appellate
15th
judge because I
for the
mostly be
total
sitting there
value
like a
of
bump on a log.
$259 shipped to Miss Lori
So,
Vallow.
I don't know if you'll
and
ever
the
see me in
description
a
being
courtroom like
down here in
this.
this area.
And was there an email associated with Lori Vallow on that document?
Yes, there is.
What is it?
lollytime@icloud.com.
Detective, Mr. Douglas, I apologize. Did you do any further investigation into this purchase?
I did.
Was this purchase successful?
This purchase was returned. It was refunded to Miss Vallow.
And do you know why?
No, but not at this time for this one specifically.
All right. Your Honor, the state has no further questions at this time.
All right, cross-examination, Mr. Pryor.
You previously mentioned that that we can refer to you as Mr. Douglas, rather
Yes, sir. That would be fine.
not agent.
No, sir. Not an agent, a forensic accountant, sir.
Okay, okay. I recall you putting up one of the exhibits where it reflected that Chad purchased a phone prior to meeting Lori Vallow. Do you
Yes.
recall that?
I do.
Okay, and what was the purpose of putting that particular identifier on the Tammy's or the life timeline that you created in that situation?
So when we requested the information from Walmart that they provided regarding all the electronics, that being one, I found that substantial because of the continued pattern of the purchase of cell phones throughout the time frame.
Okay, and did you look into what kind of phone that was?
It was provided, yes.
Okay, what kind of phone was that?
I can't say off the top of my head, sir. It's
Okay.
in my reports, but I can't
It's
remember.
one of those, and I don't want to use this term loosely, but it's one of those disposable phones. Would that be fair?
Sure.
Okay.
Yes.
And those either are required for you to add minutes to them, or you just purchase a new one. They're a relatively inexpensive way to have a second phone. Would you agree with that?
Yes, the purchase was inexpensive.
Right. And the continuing purchases of those phones was an inexpensive way to have a second phone, right?
It would have been.
And if you're having an affair with another woman and you're married, that's a pretty ideal way to hide the fact that you're having an affair by using a phone like that. Wouldn't you agree?
If you say so, sir.
Well, it's not me saying so. I asked you.
Well, I never purchased a phone for that purpose.
Well, I didn't ask you if you did, but would you agree that,
It could be used for that,
could
sure.
be used? Right. Okay.
You want to
Now,
give
you
him the
also
answer any
talked about
harder?
The number of items about purchases made. Is there any indication that in all of the financial records you examined, that there was any commingling? I guess that's a divorce term. Combining of assets between Chad Daybell and Lori Vallow.
There's no indication that money from Chad's account went into Lori's or Lori's account going into Chad's, or
Okay.
no.
Okay. Now, we'll turn to Exhibit 112. And Judge, could I have Exhibit 112? I have a copy, Judge, if you would prefer to.
We've got the exhibit here.
Okay,
We'll
thank
have. Mr. Pryor will have the court's exhibit. If you'd like the witness to review that, you can have it taken him as well.
Do you have a recollection of 112, or would it help for you to just?
If you pull it up, sir, I'll know which one it is.
If I could use the projector, Judge.
Yeah, it's been admitted, so the projector can be turned on.
Skill level here is at best. Okay, so we start this with 4/3 of 2018. To your knowledge, Chad Daybell wasn't in the picture at that point, right?
No, sir.
And there's no indication that Chad Daybell knew Lori Vallow? Sir?
The reason I put this on here, sir,
I
was
didn't ask
because
you that. I just want you to answer my questions. I don't want.
there's nothing that shows that Chad knew Lori at this time.
Okay, thank you. And at that point, Chad also didn't know Tylee Ryan, right?
No, not that I know of.
And there's no indication at all that Chad Daybell knew Joe Ryan, correct?
No indication that I know of.
And there's no indication in 4/3 of 2018 that Chad Daybell knew JJ Vallow, correct?
Sorry, state that again.
There's no indication that Chad Daybell knew JJ Vallow, correct?
At this time, no.
Okay. And then we'll move on to your timeline of 6/14 of 2018. Tylee starts receiving Social Security payments. Same questions. Chad Daybell, to your knowledge, didn't know Tylee at this point, correct?
That, not to my knowledge, no.
JJ,
Nope,
Lori?
not to my knowledge.
Okay. We can skip Tylee receiving her GED.
Mhm.
10/23/18. Lori opens that BBVA account on 10/23 of 18. At that point, Chad Daybell doesn't know Lori at that point either, right?
No, as indicated below, it would have been 3 days prior to that.
3 days prior?
This account would have been opened on 10/23. Chad and Lori met on 10/26.
Right.
So 3 days
I
prior.
see what you're saying. I'm sorry, I wasn't tracking.
Sure.
That's okay. That was my bad.
That'll be fine. Thank you.
So then we go to 10/26/18. And there's an indication that Lori Vallow came into a life insurance policy as the result of the death of Joseph Ryan. And she received a payment of $64,964.52. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Now, and I need you to clarify this for me because it's important. That wouldn't have been the time she applied for the insurance money, correct?
No, this is when it was paid into her account.
Well, how
She would have
long?
applied earlier.
Okay, and I'm going to slow down so I don't interrupt you again, or I'm going to hear about it. Any idea from your experience how long it takes to apply for life insurance payments before you generally would get those payments?
Well, in my experience specific to this case, sir, Chad applied and he received one check within a week.
Okay. And that was in regards to Tammy, right?
That is correct.
But I'm talking about in your experience with this one.
This one specifically took a little longer from what I remember regarding this.
Do you have a recollection of how long it took?
I don't, not off the top of my head, sorry.
Okay. Would it be fair to say that Lori had been anticipating receiving this almost $65,000 prior to the time that she met Chad Daybell or was ever introduced to Chad Daybell?
Lori knew about this before she met Chad Daybell.
Okay. And then on 12/10/18, Tylee starts getting paid. And please clear that by the JNS.
JNS Investments, this is her uncle's business.
Okay.
That's the name that they were under.
Okay. And then Tylee begins making monthly payments to T-Mobile on 2/25/19, right?
Correct.
Charles, and that would be Charles Vallow, right?
Correct.
Cosigns for Tylee to get a Jeep. And Tylee begins making monthly payments. Okay. Is that fair in the squares I've represented there?
That's correct. Yes.
And then you put down that Charles Vallow dies on 7/11/19, right?
Correct.
So what I'm having some difficulty with is this is Tylee's financial timeline, right?
Correct. That's what it's labeled, sir.
And it's talking about Tylee's, how she's spending her money and the manner in which she's spending the money, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And Chad Daybell has nothing to do with any of the transactions above, right?
Not on this, no.
Okay. And the only reference to Chad Daybell is you put, well, when they met, right? Okay.
Correct.
And then you put that Charles Vallow dies, right?
Yes.
You're not trying to imply that because of financial reasons in this particular exhibit, Chad Daybell had anything to do with the death of Charles Vallow, are you?
What I'm implying on this specific timeline, sir, was where Tylee's funds were going to come from and then what she spent them on. This is specifically to show on Tylee's
Okay.
spending habits, sir.
And I don't want to put an answer in your mouth to testify, but that wasn't really my question. My
No,
question.
because that's not the reason that I built this
Thank you.
timeline.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you. Oh, you sneak up behind me there. Is that where you are? There was a discussion on
Thank you, Alabama Rose, for the kind
one of
reminder
your
of the chat.
exhibits
Always appreciated.
where you talked about Lori mentioning to Chad about receiving a $4,000 payment. Do you remember that?
I do.
What exhibit was that again?
That's noted on a couple. It was on the one that you just handed back.
Okay. And then on the other one, it was.
It would have been regarding JJ as well.
I'm just going to say both of you are kind of getting into a habit of talking over each other. Please try to avoid that.
And if I could have exhibit one
Mr.
for-
Pryor, You just talked right over me when I was
I'm
telling you
sorry,
to
Judge.
please not do that. Thank you.
And if I could have Exhibit 114, Judge.
I'm contemplating not covering this trial after this week, just because the numbers have not been anything like what I need to make this viable for me.
Judge, if I could publish this.
Just an FYI, just to let you know,
You bet.
planning notes.
Oops.
Obviously, I'm interested in providing to the channel things people will be interested in watching. And the numbers for this have shown that people are not interested in this content.
Maybe not.
And so there are other
Hopefully it's
things I
really
could be
bad.
doing with my time. For
About
example, U.S.
4,000
Supreme
month in
Court
insurance.
cases and other cases that I could be discussing that perhaps would be of better interest. So I may abandon this case after this week.
So on this particular chart, this was JJ's financial?
This would have been a timeline regarding JJ's or transaction regarding JJ.
Okay, so the financial transaction regarding JJ, again, you put on there that Chad Daybell and Lori meet, right?
I did.
And then a box right next to it.
I
again, you
can't do
put down that Charles
recaps
Vallow
without
dies.
watching the trial in order to
Correct.
recap it.
Okay.
And
then on
that
7/18,
is as much
after
time as
Charles
just doing it
Vallow's
in the
death,
first place. So I don't
it says something
I
about
don't see
Lori
how I could
texting
do
Chad about
recaps as a
receiving
practical
400 a
matter.
month in Social Security, but nothing from the insurance company.
That is correct. And it's 4,000, not 400.
4,000, I'm sorry. Thank you. And at this point, was there any other indication in your investigation that they ever talked prior to that time about any financial matters like Social Security or insurance?
Not that I can recall at this time, sir.
Okay. And this text was in the form of expressing her displeasure about the fact that this is what she discovered after Charles's death, right?
It could be said that way, sir.
Okay. And then we go on to, well, before I go there, there was nothing to indicate that Chad Daybell had any financial interest in that Social Security or insurance at that point on 7/18 of 2019, correct?
I don't know of a response regarding that.
Okay. You didn't find anything that showed that Chad had any financial link to any of those accounts, right?
Correct.
Okay. And then Lori posts a dog for sale on 8/9 of 19, right?
Yes.
And then on 8/12, she names Colby Ryan the insurance beneficiary on her life policy.
Yes.
Okay. Now, at that point, at least we are aware that her and Chad are involved in a relationship of some kind, right?
I think that's fair to say.
And yet at that point, she names as a beneficiary on her life insurance policy and Colby Ryan's her son, right?
Yes.
With the deceased Joseph Ryan.
I believe so.
Okay, so she puts an insurance policy on her name, not Chad's at that point, or puts it on Colby's name, not Chad's, for 100% of the beneficiary, right?
Correct.
And then she also previously, we talked towards the end of your testimony about the fact that she made numerous payments to Colby Ryan, right?
Correct.
And that was after, well after the last known sign of life of JJ Vallow, correct?
Yes.
So she was giving, at least in some indication, money to Colby Ryan. And on 8/12 of 19, after Charles Vallow dies, she puts Colby Ryan on her insurance policy. Correct?
Correct.
Okay. Now, then on 8/14, she applies for an apartment in Rexburg. And at that point, she's receiving a bit of money, right?
Yes.
Okay. And then she moves to Rexburg on 9/1. This is going to be a task. Bear with me, please.
All right.
I'm a lawyer, not a audiovisual person. But in any event, then we move on. She moves to Rexburg. And at this point, there's still no financial link between Chad Daybell and Lori Vallow, correct?
Correct.
And then on 9/8/19, when there's a last known sign of regarding Tylee Ryan on 9/8/19, there's still no financial link between Chad Daybell and Lori Vallow of any kind. Is that correct?
There are no accounts with them associating funds at this time.
And then the prosecutor's assertion that the last known sign of life with JJ Vallow was on 9/22/19. Again, there were no accounts that were mingled at that point, correct?
Correct.
And there was nothing financially showing them linked in any way, correct?
Correct.
And then after the fact that when they got married, again, there was no joint accounts to your knowledge, correct?
Correct.
Not sure how we'll do that. Now, on one of your exhibits, you talked something about a south-southwest wind. Remember
did.
that?
I do.
Okay. And that was part of the email searching that you did as a result of was that part of Tylee's?
Yes, that would have been on Tylee, sir.
Okay. And as far as financial, I found that a little unusual that you would include Google search for the wind direction on Tylee's financial.
Sure.
Okay, that's not something of the ordinary, right?
Not necessarily, sir.
Okay. But you didn't include the emails after that talked about Mr. Daybell burning some tree lip.
I didn't find that. sir.
Objection, that's a fact, not an evidence.
Sustained. There wasn't any mention of that.
Did you have any occasion to review the emails and when you prepared all of this timeline?
I was told about it, yes.
Okay.
That one I was told about.
Okay, and that's not a fact of significance. The fact that there was the fact that you checked the wind isn't really relevant to Tylee's financial in terms of how the money was spent, right?
Not excuse me. It's not regarding the financial transactions, no.
Okay. So when we're talking about Tylee's financial, the wind direction really isn't relevant to that issue, correct?
Not to that, no.
Okay. And then, so why wouldn't you mention the fact that Mr. Daybell, if the wind issue wasn't relevant to that, why wouldn't you mention the fact that Mr. Daybell sent a text message to his wife saying that he was burning limbs the next morning, the following morning?
Because I didn't discover that, sir.
Okay, fair enough. Now, as part of this timeline, you talked about the financial situation of JJ, Lori, and Tylee. And in none of these timelines, I see a situation or a box where it talks about Lori sort of being out of the picture for a time during these range of events. Were you aware that Lori Vallow had temporarily relocated by herself to Hawaii around February 1st of 2019?
There are transactions that support that. She was coming and going from Arizona to Hawaii, yes.
Well, coming and going, or was she staying in Hawaii for 2
I couldn't
months?
prove that she relocated.
Okay. But you can show that she was in Hawaii at least on around the 1st of February, correct?
Yes, and so was Tylee.
And from the whole time?
Both of them came and went.
Okay. And in 2019 also till about the end of March. Would that be consistent with what you found as well?
I would say there's transactions that support that.
Okay. Okay. And then in addition, during that time, did you have any indication of any transactions relating to JJ as to where he was during that time?
I'd have to review. I can't say right now.
Would it surprise you to learn that at about the same time frame of February 1st till the end of March that J.J. Vallow was predominantly with Charles Vallow?
He was his father, so it wouldn't surprise me, no.
Okay. Okay. Would that have any impact? Would you be able to determine whether that being separated and the receiver of those benefits being in another part of the country and the child being with the father when the parties are separated, would that cause any financial troubles for Ms. Vallow?
What benefits are you speaking of, sir?
As Social Security?
Tylee was the only one receiving Social Security at that time.
On February 1st of 2019?
Correct. Tylee was the only receiving it.
Oh, I'm sorry. There were other benefits that as a result of the death of Joseph. No, I'm sorry. You're right. That's correct. I stand corrected. Excuse me. Now, we talked a little bit on Exhibit 116, or you did, about a life insurance situation with Tammy Daybell, correct?
I did.
Okay, and on 116, you talked about the map. I think it was Map Life is what you talked about, right?
There were two. There was Life Map and Primerica.
Okay. Do you have a recollection of when the initial life insurance policy with Tammy Daybell was put into place?
Not off the top of my head, no.
Were you aware that that policy was placed, one of the $300,000 policy was put in place back in approximately 2002?
It wouldn't surprise me.
Okay, but you don't have a recollection of that,
Not off the top of my head right now.
and you don't remember that fact, doesn't jar any memory of that fact, correct?
Not right now, no.
Okay. But it wouldn't surprise you, but that's the case, correct?
No, she did have life insurance, correct.
Prior to,
Prior to.
right. And then the amount of life insurance, other than the life insurance from back in 2002 that she had, what about the life map? What are we talking about there?
You're talking specifically to
Specifically,
the
yes.
increase on 9/8?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so initially she had a base because of the employment at the part-time employment, I guess, as a librarian,
Mhm.
right?
Correct.
I think that's what it was. So when you start the employment, you get an initial base of about 50,000, right?
That's what it was in the beginning.
Okay, so the insurance was at 50,000, and then on 9/8 of 2019, Tammy increased that to what?
To 130.
Okay, so the increase went up 80,000.
Correct.
So initially, before Tammy started employment with the school, her insurance was 300,000,
There was 300,000 before, and then before she started school.
and
like
that
you
was
stated.
from some time ago, correct?
Sure. Yes.
Okay. Then she started at the school, and she had to have worked there for about a year before she was eligible to increase the insurance, correct?
It was a year or two. Yes.
A year or two.
Mhm.
And
I don't know what it was per the rule, but I know it's at least a year, maybe more.
you have to put a probationary period in. You don't automatically get that insurance, right?
Correct.
And that's a financial decision made by the school district, and I would anticipate, right?
That's, yeah, above me.
So then after a year, she can apply for an increase in that insurance from the total of 350 and add an additional $80,000 onto that. Right?
Yeah,
Okay, and they elected to do that, correct?
they did.
Okay. And we don't know who elected to increase that insurance, correct? You weren't part of the family at that
I
point.
wasn't
right?
there.
Okay. And what I find interesting is that typically the school year would start the beginning of September for most school districts.
Most.
Yeah. And that's usually the time when the school districts say, this is your opportunity to elect whether you want to increase your insurance or not increase your insurance, correct?
Yes.
So it's not inconsistent that during the school year, just before the start of the school year, as a librarian or a teacher in that school district, the insurance is elected to go up after she served her 1-year probationary period, correct?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Now, you talked about on exhibit 776 and 774. You talked about Spring Creek and the $10,000 investment.
Mhm.
And that was money that was put in to Spring Creek. And you know what Spring Creek is, right?
Chad's Book Company, yes.
And it wasn't just Chad's Book Company, was it? It was also Tammy's.
It would have
correct?
been Tammy's too.
It was both of theirs. So we could say that it was Tammy's book company, right?
Yes,
Or we could say it was Chad's book company, right?
Chad and Tammy.
Or what we should say is that it's Tammy and Chad's book company, correct?
Did he say
Yes.
Tad?
Okay.
Did he say
And
Tad?
then
Or was it just my ears playing
there
trick
was
on
some
me?
money that was $8,000 payments to each of the children, correct?
The 3 older children, yes.
Right. And then a short time after that, there was two vehicles, a minivan and then a black Dodge Dakota that Chad gave to each of the daughters as well, correct?
That actually took place prior. So the transfers took place on 6/9.
You're right.
The vehicles were given to the daughters on 3/8.
Right. And subsequent to that, the vehicles were given to the daughters. So now you were aware that,
Yeah.
well, we'll move on from that. Lastly, what I want to talk to you about is
So was Chad but poorly enunciated? Fair enough.
the malachite rings.
Hmm.
Okay. You made a comment that they were returned. I mean, it was canceled.
Though that transaction, that one specifically was canceled, yes.
Okay. Okay. Now, did you look into
I am honestly
Um,
surprised
the size
that
of
this
the wedding
stream
rings? And
is not
it
doing
showed it up
better.
on the
I
screen,
mean,
the
I
size of the
thought the
wedding rings.
Daybell
Well, it says
thing was
it said 8
so
millimeters,
huge.
but that's the width, not the size.
You know, given how big it was,
Okay.
but no one
And now,
seems
thank you for
particularly interested.
clarifying that,
I
because
had
that
700
was one of my
people, I
questions.
think,
Thank you.
live yesterday during
Um,
that stream where I was
Were you aware
berating that judge for being an idiot.
shortly after August 15th of
So-
2009, Alex Cox had been
I mean,
proposing
and that was
marriage
without
to
particular.
Zulema
That was without
Pastenes?
notice, right? It was just a stream
I
that I
don't
just
know the
created,
date
so it was a
exact
stream
fact
without
off the
notice. But
record.
people
didn't
poured
ask
in to
whether
watch
it
that
was asking if he was
stream.
aware, Judge.
So
Overruled.
Okay. Were you aware?
I guess this just
shortly
continues
after
to
that
show
time,
that I'm not particularly
Alex Cox
great
had
at
proposed marriage
predicting
to
what
Zulema
people will be
Pastenes.
interested in. Because I thought
I
this would
know
be
Alex
huge,
and
and
Zulema
I'm
got
just
married.
I'm not
I
even
don't know
cracking
when
200
the
viewers right
proposal took
now.
place.
Okay.
And I cracked
then
like
were
I
you
think
aware that also
700
at the
live
same
last
time, Lori
night,
Vallow
and
was
so it's like, well,
contemplating the
what's
same thing, a marriage
it's just not
shortly after.
it's not
shortly after that
working.
time as well. Were you aware of that?
No,
Okay. Okay. But you are aware that there's no indication through emails, text message, or otherwise.
yeah,
that
well
Chad
over
Daybell was
700,
intending
right?
To marry Lori
And right now
Vallow.
I've got
Is that right?
197 for a video that was announced multiple hours in
July,
advance.
in August.
Part of a stream that's ongoing for
wedding,
days
no.
on end.
There was nothing to implicate a wedding in August that I knew of.
East
Well,
Idaho
they were
News
proposing
has
for
something like
marriage at that
10,000
point,
people
correct?
watching its live. So
Not that I
there's a
can
lot of
think
people watching that, but
Judge,
not
that's
a lot
all
of
I have.
people
Thank
interested
you,
in
Lori. I
commentary.
appreciate it.
All right. Mr. Wood, redirect.
The Unplans seem to do pretty well, right? The Unplans do better than Thursday Night Thunderdome.
Mr.
The
Douglas, we were just
Unplans do pretty
talking
well.
about rings. Have you ever seen pictures of Chad and Lori's wedding?
I have.
What kind of rings are they wearing?
They're malachite rings.
Defense counsel asked you about why you put on the search for the south-southwest wind.
Mhm.
I've got
Earlier
Supreme
you
Court oral
testified
arguments
that
I
as a
need to
forensic
catch up
accountant,
on.
You look into factors outside just of the finances in a case. Is that correct?
Yes.
And when
There's
you came onto
pop
this case, it
stories
was
that
a
are
missing
happening,
children
like
case. Is
that
correct?
woman
That
that
is
got
correct.
arrested in the Burbank, California. I could have
And
made a video
so-
about that.
And
Try to put
and the
together some sort of edited
Defense counsel
video.
asked you about a text message Chad sent about burning limbs.
Correct.
And do you know what date that message was sent?
I believe that took place the day
Edited videos
after,
are also nice because then I can
on
do shorts on
9/9.
them. And
what was-
that helps also
pursuant to your-
for promotion.
Investigation. What was the last known sighting of Tylee Ryan?
the last no sighting is 9/8.
Defense counsel asked you about the text message between Lori and Chad about the $4,000 in Social Security.
Correct.
So Mr. Daybell was aware.
I mean, if Chad's story is
that Lori
uninteresting,
was
Lynn, that's
receiving
sort of all we
at
need to
least
know. It's just not
$4,000 at that point
interesting.
in
It's
social
just
At least
not
security.
4,000.
working.
You testified that there's no joint account.
It's not an issue of getting it down.
Chad
It's an issue of
Daybell
me
and Lori
trying to
Vallow.
survive.
Correct.
To be quite
Did
frank,
they live together?
this is my
at any point?
my full-time job. I'm not bringing in the viewers,
Was that in Hawaii?
In Hawaii.
which means
yes.
I'm not bringing in ad revenue, which means I'm not bringing in
Just
super
finally,
chats, which means I'm not
defense
bringing
counsel
in
asked you
the money to
about,
bring this
uh,
to make this work. It is
I wanna call them
financially not
burner phones
viable.
that Mr. Daybell purchased. Is that?
There's just simply
Accurate.
not
That is
enough
correct.
money coming in to
And he
justify
asked you if that would
this
be a good way to
expenditure of
hide an
time.
affair.
It's a
That's
very practical consideration. It's
Well,
not that it gets me
would that
down.
be a
It's
good
just
way to
like
hide a
it's not
crime?
working.
Yes.
So
in
give
my
the people what they want.
So in your experience as a forensic accountant, do you see people engaged in criminal activity purchasing burner phones often?
Yes.
And so if someone was having an affair and then the mistress's husband dies, and then your wife dies, and you marry that woman 10 days later, and then the next year 2 dead children are found on your property, are those the type of events that might lead someone to buy multiple burner phones?
It could.
No other questions, Your Honor.
All right. Go ahead. You can recross on that limited scope, Mr. Pryor. At the podium, please.
And actually, two questions. The financial transactions and issues related to finances with Tylee, Ryan, and JJ started about or around when?
The financial transactions that I was tracking with Tylee, we got data into 2018, but my charts are indicative of January of 2019.
Okay. And then the marriage and the time they lived together in Hawaii, Chad and Lori, started when?
So they got married November 5th of 2019
Okay, and they lived in Hawaii together until when?
until she was arrested, I believe,
In January.
in January,
So 2 months.
2 months.
And the financial transactions prior to that went back at least a year and a half.
Yes.
All right, yeah, nothing else, Judge. Thank you.
All right, that'll conclude the testimony then of Mr. Douglas. Is he going to be recalled by either side?
Your Honor, at this point, he can be released from the state subpoena.
Okay, that'll conclude your testimony then, Mr. Douglas. Thank you for appearing. You can go ahead and step down, and if there are any exhibits on the bench, I'll have the bailiff grab those. I don't know if there are. Okay. The state ready to call its next witness.
Yes, Your Honor.
Who will that be?
The state will call Melanie Gibb.
Very well.
The testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing.
All right, before we commence with testimony, Ms. Gibb, please make sure to answer all of the questions verbally so we make a good record. Try to avoid talking at the same time as any attorney questioning you. And I am going to inquire now that you're under oath, have you reviewed or watched any of this trial since it started on the court's live stream?
No.
Have you talked to anyone else about testimony they gave in this trial so far? All right, with that in mind, then, Ms. Blake, if you'd like to inquire on direct, you may.
Thank you. Would you please state your name and spell it for the record?
Melanie Gibb, Melanie Gibb.
Miss Gibb, do you know an individual named Chad Daybell?
I do.
Do you recall approximately when you met him?
I believe it was the summer of 2017.
Do you recall where you met him?
I met him at a get together that was like a camping environment.
Did you talk to him at that event?
I did.
Did you stay in close contact with him after that?
No,
Do you recall meeting an individual named Lori Vallow?
yes.
How did you meet her?
I met her in a church building where I was given a class and she was in the audience.
Do you recall approximately when that would have been?
I believe October 2018.
And do you recall when you met her who approached whom?
She approached me.
When you first met her, did you end up striking up a friendship?
Yes,
And did you stay in pretty consistent contact with her, at least initially after meeting her?
yes,
Do you recall going to an event with Miss Vallow towards the end of October of 2018?
yes.
Do you recall when that was?
It was in October. I would say about a few weeks after I met Lori. And yes, we went to St. George, Utah.
Do you recall why you went to St. George, Utah?
We went for a conference.
Did anyone else travel with you and Lori to that conference?
Yes.
And do you recall who?
I can't remember their names. I think there was 6 of us, 5 or 6 of us.
Did you all travel together in the same vehicle?
Yes.
When you got there to the conference,
Okay, guys, I'm calling it. I'm calling it. Look, I've been trying to do this for days. And I'm just not getting anything close to the amount of people that I need to watch this channel to bring in enough revenue to keep it going. It's no disrespect. There's no disrespect, but it's just not viable. So I'm going to stop the stream. Instead of this, I'm going to be trying to cover some more Supreme Court stuff. There's some Supreme Court oral arguments I need to catch up on. And there is some stories I could make videos about, like the woman who was just arrested for the city council thing. I can make like a video excerpt about that or something like that. So, you know. So, yeah. I also wanted to briefly talk about the stream yesterday. Some people thought I was mean or rude to people in chat. I don't know if I agree with that characterization. You know, I was frustrated because I was unable to get accurate information, and at the end I was like, I really need this thing, and I was unable to get the thing, and so I just matter of fact, it's like I don't have the thing, so I need to end the stream because I can't go hunting around for it, and you know, whatever. So I don't know if I agree with the characterization. But there were a lot of people who said, yeah. Laura, you know, asked what trial we're interested in by poll. I suppose. I am frustrated. Yeah, I was frustrated. Someone said, I'm shocked that people listen to your presentation. You started out basically yelling at your audience. Was I yelling? I was just like, I can't get accurate information. I was like, is it this or is it this? It's like, I can't get accurate information. So I was frustrated. Someone saying you must be new here. Someone said, why end the stream so angrily? It's like, I don't think I ended the stream angrily. It just said, sounds matter of fact to me. I don't have the information, so I can't continue the stream, right? Like me saying now, this isn't working for me. This isn't working for me. It's just a matter of fact. It's not working for me. It's not necessarily me being, a little frustrated maybe because I want to work and also I want to be able to eat. So that's nice. Someone said, bro, why are you acting like a 2-year-old bratty kid that somehow hasn't gone their way? Did you wake up with a gone complex this morning? I don't know. Yeah, so I don't know. It's like, because the chat was giving me all kinds of contradictory information. So I was like, is it this or is it this? And it gave me contradictory information. I'm like, I don't know what to do with this. So it's frustrating for me because, without accurate information, I can't give correct analysis. Maybe updates would be better than the full live coverage. How would I give updates without watching the entire underlying thing? That's the problem, right? How do I do that practically? That's the issue, right? How do you do that practically? How do you do an update or how do you do a recap without actually watching the thing to do a recap? And then presumably you have to isolate clips somehow, which is even more work. So you have to watch it somehow, isolate clips in order to do a thing. That's even more work. You have a super short temper? Sometimes. Maybe that's the problem. Maybe I do have a short temper. I don't know. I don't know if that's fair or not, but... All right, I'm going to sign off. We'll probably be on later today with some more or something. All right, goodbye for now.